everyone, and welcome back to another Pie Chat Live. I'm Kim Martin. I'm a reporter for the Pie, and I'm delighted to be joined by Sanam Arora, who is the founder and chairperson of NISAU. So NISAU is the National Indian Students and Alumni Union UK. And today we're kind of celebrating the countdown to NISAU's India UK Achievers Honours and Conference, which is taking place on the 27th and 28th of February. So not too long now. So Sanam is going to tell us much more about that. Thank you so much for being here today. And for our audience, let us know where you're tuning from. We always like to see, where our global audience is coming from. But I guess first of all, Sanam, you're a friend of the Pie. You've been on Pie Chat Live before. Came to many of our events. So lots of our audience will be familiar with you and the amazing work that you do. But for our audience members who are maybe new here or just don't know you, could you just give us a bit of background to NISAU, how the association came about, and why do you do what you do?
Thank you for having me, Kim, and thanks to everyone for joining. NISAU, like you said, and you're one of the few who actually got the name right, so you're definitely a friend, Kim. But the National Indian Students and Alumni Union UK was formed about 12 years ago now, so we were born sort of in the academic year 2012-13, and we came about really out of, I want to say, adversity. Many of us will remember back then, about a decade or so ago, was the time when the sort of anti-immigrant sentiment was starting to kick in. We had headlines like, "I'm going to throw all foreign students out." We had the whole bogus college, supposed bogus student scandal. And a lot of this sort of, negativity was going around, not just in terms of rhetoric, but also in terms of actions. And that had a lot of unintended consequences for a lot of international students in the UK. And I'm talking hundreds of thousands of people being impacted. Ultimately, the anti-immigrant sentiment, of course, led to Brexit. But in terms of international students, you'll remember numbers from India had plummeted, and there were tens of thousands of international students who were affected really badly by the bogus college scandal. And, they were given about 60 days, I think, to return home or, to find another college or return home. And so getting kind of trapped into a vicious cycle of bad colleges. And that's when, I was doing an undergrad at the LSE at that point, and we used to do a lot of India-centric events at our university and used to get a bit of media coverage. Now, what that media coverage meant was that all of these students who were struggling as a result of all these unintended policy consequences and really needed help, found that they had nowhere to go. They would reach out to me and a few of my friends asking for help. And that's when I was like, oh, but what should I do? And that question is really what led me to discover that, despite bringing billions of dollars into the British economy and being friends of the UK, international students, Indian students in this case, seem to have nowhere to go when they need help. And so that's what we felt was, like, forget consumer rights, where are the human rights? And that's really what led to the formation of the National Indian Students and Alumni UK as a unit, sort of, what's the word, as a voice that can unite all the students and young people on one platform to be able to really articulate our needs, our requirements, our issues, and have a peer-to-peer support network, and ultimately be a home away from home for all young Indians in the country. So that's really what led to the formulation of NISAU. And someone actually said this to me, some very senior in India said this to me, that everyone from Gandhi to Nehru to Ambedkar, the founding fathers of the Indian country as it stands today post-independence, have studied in the UK, and yet we don't have a national union uniting Indian students. And so we thought, well, that needs to change. So about 12 years ago is when we started on that mission, and we're continuing here today.
Amazing, and it's so great to see how much that's grown. And I've been to a few NISAU events, like I told you before, and it's always really interesting, really successful. So I guess, can you tell us a bit about the Achievers Honours? Is this the second year in a row you've been doing this?
This is the second year in a row, yes.
Okay, so if you just tell us a bit about the awards showcase. I know that last year celebrated 75 achievers. So could you also remind us who some of those achievers were too?
Absolutely. So the Achievers Honours is, as I sort of tend to call it, a labor of love. It is the second year we're doing it. The last year we did it, it was this wild, ambitious, mental idea that we came up with the British Council in India, with the British High Commissioner in India, where we were sort of thinking, how do we celebrate India at 75? Some of your audience will remember, it was 75 years of India's independence, and there was a massive global movement to celebrate that. And we thought, well, the best way we could do that was by celebrating the India-UK educational corridor. That's what, is of the deepest meaning to us and our community. And actually, it's one of those areas which goes lesser noticed in the sense of, international students, Indian students will always get caught up in the debate of immigration as numbers, as data points, as statistics. But the impact, the sheer scale, the diversity, the breadth, and the awesomeness of the impact that the UK's Indian graduates are having, not just in the UK, not just in India, but all over the world, is just absolutely phenomenal. And we felt that we don't recognize that enough as a sector. We don't, in fact, to be fair, and I know I might get criticized for saying this, I don't think we do alumni engagement well enough just on the whole as a sector. I think the Americans do it better than us. And so this was our little activity to try, wild in our case, mental and very large scale in our case, to try and address some of that, to really champion the living bridge. Prime Minister Modi refers to Indians in the Indian diaspora, including Indians who come here to study, as the living bridge. And that was a term that Prime Minister Modi and David Cameron have been using when they were both prime ministers back in the day. And so living bridge is really what we're trying to champion here. And the sorts of people that we came through, because it was India's 75th anniversary, we went for this mental idea of doing 75 at 75. So we identified through a very, very incredibly competitive process, 75 individuals across different sectors, across all strata of society, who've studied in the UK, some form of academic program they've undertaken in the UK, and then gone on to do wonderful, wonderful things in their fields and in society. So both professional impact and social impact over and above what they've done in their careers is quite important to us. The individuals last year were all under the age of 49. That was a criteria for us to champion young talent in the UK's India corridor. And some of the individuals, like I knew how how good the impact and how diverse the impact was of Indians who've studied in the UK. But honestly, I don't think any of us realized until we went through those applications and felt like we needed to, I don't know, get on antidepressants or something, because what are we doing with our lives? The impact that Indian graduates are having is actually way more profound than any of us had realized. For instance, between two of the 75 individuals who we identified in the business and entrepreneurship and science and innovation category, just 2 out of 75, between the two individuals, they are already producing 70% of the world's vaccines. The whole AstraZeneca Oxford vaccine is a classic case study. One of the achievers, Adar Poonawala, was our outstanding achiever for the business and entrepreneurship category. He's the guy who produces those in India, that AstraZeneca vaccine. That's vaccinated not just India, but a lot of the world. People like him, people such as this lady called Urvashi Prasad, who is a director for Niti Aayog in India, which is India's government think tank, who led from the front line, despite being a cancer survivor herself, and going through that struggle, living through that struggle. She actually led India's COVID response from the front lines. We had the youngest ever member at the age of 34 years of age, Raghav Chadda, who is the youngest member of Indian Parliament ever, who's one of our achievers. We had an Indian Bollywood superstar, Pariniti Chopra, who's a National Film Award winner. As it happens, and they've just confirmed this, so I can now finally, after a year of being harassed about it, say it, they did meet at Achievers. They did get married out of Achievers. So now we have this sort of huge wedding that's been viral in India throughout the course of the year. And I don't know how we're going to beat that particular KPI, but we've had just some phenomenal stories of absolute awesomeness come through the Achievers Honors. And based on, we were initially going to do it as a one-off, to be very honest, but then we decided, we got so much demand, like harassed by thousands of people asking when the next round of applications would open, and a lot of demand from universities all over the UK. So we had participation from about 100 universities last year. So I would like to say all universities active in the India-UK corridor participated. I think, we had organizations like Universities UK, of course, the British Council, Department for Trade, Buila, London Higher, all of them as our partners, Chevening. So the take-up was really sector-wide. And so we got a lot of demand from the sector to do something similar this year too. And yeah, so we're back. Achievers Honors is happening. It's going to be a more regular exercise going forward. This year, 2024's class is ready to be revealed on the 28th of February. But yeah, the program is a 2-day program. So 27th of February, we are in Parliament, in the UK Parliament, where we will be revealing who the finalists across our 9 categories for this year are. That information is currently a bit of a mystery and under embargo. But on the 28th of February, when the gala celebrations happen, that's where the big winners will be revealed as well.
Amazing. Sounds great. I definitely agree with that much success. It can't be a one-off thing. You know, there's obviously still so much more achievements to kind of showcase and highlight. So it sounds amazing. Can you tell us how people can get involved?
Absolutely. So this year we have decided to go even more mental in classic NISAU style, which is this year we're actually doing 2 things. We've got the Achievers Honours celebrations that are taking place. Most universities in the UK have already spread the word, and so we've gotten all our finalists now from, I think, some 30, 40, maybe even close to 50 universities that our finalists have been secured from. So and we've got so there'll be the parliamentary reception where the finalists are revealed on the 27th, and on the 28th there'll be the big gala celebrations where universities will be able to join in and celebrate their alumni. There is also this year on the 28th of February a day-long India UK education conference, which is a first for us. It's a first for the sector as far as I'm aware, where really we long felt that conversations about young people can actually often leave young people out of the conversations. So we wanted to get, especially this year, especially when the whole sector is at a bit of a crossroads, and so much is going on, right, with the graduate review, with the agent review, with supposed so-called investigations that are coming out of the media. So we felt actually this was a very important year for us to really bring out an agenda that students care about, that students want to push out with the sector, to collectively position and articulate the asks of the UK India education corridor and the international higher education sector really into policymakers. So we will be joined at this day-long forum on the 28th of February, which is comprised of a series of keynotes, ministerial keynotes, breakout sessions, special focus sessions, and plenaries. We'll have, I'm expecting about 400, 500 people on the day, hopefully. And we're expecting vice chancellors, we're expecting people in VC offices, APVCs, GPVCs, as well as sort of heads of international recruitment, heads of alumni engagement, heads of international student success. Even people with domestic roles will find this interesting because there's a lot that we're talking about. We will be covering things like, whether the UK is still a world-class destination for studies. We take that as a bit of a for granted assumption. We'll be looking to challenge that. We'll be looking to see what makes for a world-class destination. We'll be looking at what a manifesto for international higher education in the UK looks like. What do we really want from an incoming UK government? We'll also be looking at thematic areas that are of deep concern to Indian and international students. So employability, we'll be looking at and artificial intelligence. We'll also be looking at the skills agenda, because that is of immense importance to really both the domestic as well as the international offer that the UK has, with all changes in the higher and further education scene, with the inputting of incoming things like the lifelong loan entitlement. The skills agenda is sort of top of the mind for most senior leaders in the UK. So what does that mean domestically, but also what does that mean for our international offer? These are some of the things. Also things like, we've got the lead from Deakin University in Australia joining. Many of your audience will know that Deakin is the only foreign university who's actually managed to enter India and set up a branch campus there literally a couple of weeks ago. So we'll be having them join fresh off that to talk about how they've actually managed to navigate that complex regulatory landscape in India. And take advantage really of the opportunities that India has to offer. So from immigration to transnational education, from AI to employability, and really we are going to be doing some pretty punchy, bold, unapologetic sessions. And so people can get involved in a myriad of ways. The first thing is, we are inviting one representative from each university on a complimentary basis. We're not going to be charging for it. This is an entirely voluntary, not-for-profit exercise, as you know, for us, Kim, because we really want the sector to come together and shape the agenda together with us, the students and the alumni, and together with government stakeholders. We will have stakeholders from the Home Office, from the Department for Trade, from the Department of Education, from the Foreign Office, from other parts of government, hopefully joining in. We're having all of those conversations. And, this is our opportunity to really engage in slightly, in a more sort of closer fashion, in fashion that allows us to really come up with some actionable outcomes. And so yes, one representative from each higher or further education institution in the UK is very welcome to join on a complimentary basis. We have sent out emailers to vice chancellors and others on our database, but if you haven't received those, I think you can just write to us at info@achieversshowcase.com, and just click on that button that says learn more about the forum, and you'd be able to access someone in the team. But yeah, we'd absolutely welcome one person from each university, and then there will be a limited number of passes up for sale as well. They're already live on our website, achieversshowcase.com. We've priced them quite not for profity, so that we encourage as much participation from the whole sector as possible. So anybody across any of those roles that I was mentioning earlier, whether it's international recruitment, whether it's alumni engagement, whether it's student success, many of those domestically relevant agenda points, people from academia as well as from management will find this quite useful.
Brilliant. Yeah, like Sanam said, you can click the kind of green blue button below to find out more, but it does sound like it's going to be an amazing jam-packed event. So thanks so much for letting us know about that. So like you mentioned, there's lots of kind of, you've got this parliamentary reception, all these ministers are involved. It seems like NISAU has received quite a lot of support, kind of cross-parliamentary support. Why do you think that is?
We're very lucky. I want to start by saying, maybe I'll just start by giving a big thank you actually to the higher education sector in the UK, because there isn't an organization like us anywhere in the world. And I genuinely feel that it is the United Kingdom which has enabled an environment in which an organization like ours can come up, often be challenging the government on a lot of what it's saying, but still get so much support from the government and both the government and the opposition for that matter. So that is actually reflected in our parliamentary patrons, which includes a cross-party range of patrons in both countries. In the UK, we have Mr. Virendra Sharma, who is the chair. He's the member of parliament from Ealing and Southall. He's the chair of the Indo-British All-Party Parliamentary Group. So sort of every India-UK activity sort of goes through him. He is, our biggest champion, and we are ever so grateful to him. So we've got, people like him. We've got Lord Karan Bilimoria, who I'm sure many of you will be familiar with. He's so many things, but in the higher education sector, he's the chair of he's the president of UKISA, chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group on International Students, and of course, Chancellor of Birmingham University. All of us drink his beer, his Cobra beer, whenever we're having a curry. And of course, he's the former president of the Confederation of British Industries. We've got him as our independent cross-party patron. We've also got a Conservative patron who is the chair of the chair of the Conservative Friends of India, Lord Rami Ranger. And again, very active in that India-UK corridor. So we are fortunate to have a cross-party parliamentary group of patrons who really help champion a lot of our activities into Parliament. But also we're very, very fortunate. So, we've got Lord Joe Johnson, who's a great supporter. We've got Chris Skidmore, who is obviously former universities minister, but currently chairing the International Higher Education Commission, which I also sit on. We've got my own MP, Gareth Thomas, poor Gareth, who he's the shadow trade minister, but I often bully him using my constituency card. Jokes aside, we're really, really fortunate to have so much support from across government and Parliament, and that includes Downing Street. We are in conversations with Downing Street, so watch out for some magic at this particular 28th of February event. But yeah, we're just really lucky, and it's hard work came from a lot of volunteers that goes into this passionate labor of love, as I keep calling it.
And I think the support is definitely testament to the work you guys do and the message you get out there. We've got a couple of questions from our audience. So Shreya has asked, would an agenda be shared prior to the event? So is the agenda online on that website as well?
Absolutely. A very detailed agenda is up on the website, Shreya. So if you just click the link that's in that green button at the bottom, you'll be able to look at all the section headers. And if you click on those, you'll be able to see a very detailed agenda for each of those sessions, as well as we are revealing our speakers on a daily basis. There's some featured speakers up there now and more to be revealed in the coming days.
Great. And we've also got a question from Haley. So a similar question to the one I wanted to ask as well. So how important is a project like the Achievers Honours in the midst of the rhetoric currently being peddled about international students? So I guess things to do with immigration policy and the graduate route. Why do you think it's important to celebrate the achievement of graduates, whether they're Indian or not, at this moment in time?
Haley, thank you. It is such a fantastic question and one that I feel so passionately about. I feel like this is the exact time we need to be sharing the success stories of international graduates. The fact that, as I explained earlier, 70% of the world's vaccines are being made by two people below the age of 49 who studied in the UK and are international students. The entire AstraZeneca Oxford Serum partnership is a product of international graduates of the UK. There are so many prime ministers all over the world, but let's concentrate on India, including our lifetime achievement honoree from last year, Dr. Manmohan Singh, who are, products of this country. I just feel like yours, from Leeds, Haley. Last year we had India's Arjun Award winning, one of our topmost sports people, Saurav Ghoshal, for example. And there's a lot from Leeds this year too, Haley, just so you're aware. They're doing such fantastic work all over the world. So no, they're not stealing our jobs. They're not, crowding out domestic students. If anything, their international students are, as we all know, enabling research that happens, the world-class research that happens in our universities. They're enabling domestic students to take up the places that might not exist otherwise, and propping up universities and towns and entire university ecosystems that may not exist otherwise. So actually, now is precisely the time we need to counteract the rhetoric with the stories of success en masse. And through the thousands and thousands of applications we've been getting just from one country, just from India, I think we need your support to take this out into the mainstream, because I fundamentally do not believe that people on the street, if they were educated and told and given the right information, would actually even think about whether we want international students in this country or not. I just think it's bonkers that the question even arises. But hey, it's a political question, and I just think that that's got to be addressed with facts, but emotions and stories matter. So help us take these stories to the public as we bring them out. I feel like we've done the hard work, and now it's for organizations like universities and the PI and other media organizations to really disseminate this out into the public domain more and help us do that.
Very well said. And we're really looking forward to having you in March, Sanam, at the Pi Live event. And I know you'll be speaking more about these kind of issues, which are so important. Can you give us a little taste of what you think you might bring to the discussion? Are you excited about joining us at the Pi Live at the brewery in London?
Course, I love the pie and I love the pie lives. And, I've been coming to your events for so many years now, and I feel like they always bring out, really cutting edge topics and really interesting conversations. So the session that I'll be chairing is around the UK-India relationship and what, last time when the post-study work visa was taken away, enrollments from India fell about 50%. Enrollments from India are already down about 45%, as I understand, and it's set to get worse. Now, that may be a surprise to a lot of people out there. It's not a surprise to us. We've lived that experience before. On the other end, as students, and the at the Pi Live, I'll be looking at what of the removal of the post-study work visa, for example, might mean for the sector from an India specific point of view. And also the way we are structuring the sessions, we'll have the day-long India UK Education Conference on the 28th of Feb, and then a follow-on quite naturally from that at the Pi Live. So participants will see an evolution of the discussion, and quick next steps in terms of how do we take a lot of what we get from the 28th forward into action through the course of March and beyond. So yeah, very excited about the Pi Live, and I think it should make for fascinating conversation.
Yeah, it sounds great. We can't wait to see you there. I'll post the link to the Pi Live as well in case any of our audience are interested in attending that too. But yeah, I just want to say thank you so much, Sanam, for your time today. And I really want to encourage everyone who's watching to click that blue button to learn more about the forum, because it sounds like a really great event and there's a lot to unpack and discuss. So yeah, thank you so much, and we wish you the best of luck with your events and everything that NISAU has in store.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.